Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, we walked our bikes into Olympic Sculpture Park in Seattle, and it's pretty cool. Look at these sculptures. Had a really wonderful day today. Got soaked earlier in the morning because it was raining out, but it wasn't so bad because I was hanging out with co-founder and CEO of Rad Power Bikes. This is Mike Radenbaugh. How's it going?
Good, man. Yeah, we're all dried off now, so day's going great.
It's going really well, and frankly, with the fenders and the lights and everything, it was kind of fun. I was like puddle hopping, taking me back. And then a product manager over here, this is Corey. How's it going?
Great.
Thank you both for being here with me. I've been able to deep dive on these bikes because I've reviewed them a bunch before. The Rad City's been around for a while, and they've got a couple different versions. There's the high step version that we're looking at, and that's really the focus of this video. But they also have a step through version, and this one's really great. It's very approachable. You just throw your leg right over. And that's important if you've got big boxes, accessories. They sell a ton of accessories and they're cross-compatible. The battery is also compatible across the different bikes. It's the same battery pack. I really appreciate that. The motor, most of the bike is kind of the same, except for this only comes in one frame size, whereas the high step, it comes in 16 and 19. So this is actually a 16. I'm somewhere in between. I'm about 5'9", and I've got a longer inseam, so I've got the seat raised up fairly high on mine. I might be tempted to go with the larger myself, just to get that full leg extension. Rad Power Bikes, they sell predominantly online, and they've always had a really great value price point. Being able to choose different sizes is nice. I also want to call out that nice silver that we're seeing there with I guess they call it silver, but it's really a dark silver right here. And then they've got these gray, again, kind of silvery accents here with some orange mixed in. That's the one color choice that you have for the high step. If you get the step through, it comes in this matte black or kind of a satin black or a white. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of choices, but frame size is one that's really unique on the high step. I like that. I just wanted to get that out of the way initially because you might want to watch one of those other reviews or just think through which bike you want. Approachability is a big deal for a lot of people, but the style of this, the stiffness, having a bike that's bigger, that's become important to me as I want to pedal along and feel comfortable. Also, look at the handlebars here. These are nice, what I would call mid-rise bars. They've got the rubber ergonomic grips, the adjustable angle stem. If we come over to the step through, this is still, it's got a rise to it, but it's swept back a little bit more like a cruiser, and that can be really comfortable. The reach just isn't quite as far. But again, with the adjustable angle stem, you've got a lot of good fit options. Also comfort. We've got an SR Suntour spring fork here with hydraulic lockout, so you don't have to have that bob feeling. You don't have to have dive if you're someone who's a little bit heavier. Maybe you've got those racks going on and you just want to stabilize. You can lock it out. We've also got preload adjust, so if you're someone who's a little bit heavier, you can kind of preload that spring. And then these awesome Kenda tires. These were custom done for Rad Power Bikes. They've got puncture protection, K-shield. They've also got a really wonderful reflective sidewall stripes. That's a huge deal for me, especially with a darker color frame like this. That's important if it's a little bit maybe overcast or it's evening time. And then integrated lights. So this is the Spinninga Ascendo 60, really bright, aimable, and they've raised it a little bit so it's not going to get blocked by that fender. Plastic fenders, they've actually felt pretty good. There's not a whole lot of rattling going on, and then they've got this little rubber mud flap, so if you're pedaling and there is a toe strike, it's not going to mess up the fender. Same thing in the rear. We picked up a stick there. Awesome. And then we've got an integrated light. That's the Solo by Spinninga, and it's a really cool light. In the past, Rad Power Bikes has had these lights that were independently powered by disposable battery cells. And it was kind of annoying because you had to come back here and kind of turn them on and mess with them. You could forget about it. And I asked them about that, and it was well, it's cost savings. And as volume has gone up, they've become a really a leading brand in the United States, and they're in Canada now. So they're able to do more volume and keep the price relatively low. They were able to squeeze in those nicer parts. So we can see up here on the display panel, it's on now. If I pull either one of these brake levers, look at that. The light comes on. That's something you see a lot in Europe, something that's a really nice feature, just keeps you extra safe, and it's not going to get blocked if you have panniers or a trunk bag. They've got a nice kickstand out here that's fairly out of the way. You're not going to get a heel strike. Remember, I am looking at the medium-sized frame, or the small, basically the 16-inch is what they call it. Great 180 millimeter mechanical disc brakes from Tektro. There's Tektro Aries up there. So the larger disc is going to give you a mechanical advantage. Apparently they're a little bit easier to adjust aftermarket than a hydraulic disc brake. That's one of the selling points that they're advertising, but frankly, it would be nice to have hydraulic because the rear brake, you know, that cable goes a little further, so you have to squeeze a little bit harder here. You have to use a bit more hand effort than if they were hydraulic, but they keep the price down, they're adjustable, and they've used really nice brake levers. I appreciate that they've got this rubberized edge and a cute little integrated bell. That's awesome. So I think all around, when I look at the hardware, I really try to scrutinize the parts that are chosen on these bikes. And I love that they set up the front rack, it's frame bolted, okay? It's not like connected to the fork or connected to the fenders or anything like that. It's not gonna tip as you steer the bike. I'm gonna try and demonstrate that over here. So as you're steering the bike, see, your stuff's not gonna get tipped. And that's a big deal if you're carrying a ton of stuff, which you totally could with these bikes. I'm trying to remember the maximum weight capacity for this bike. It's like 275? That sound right? Okay.
You never forget stats, man.
I try to remember, you know, there's a lot to take in here, and I'm just exploring these, just sort of flowing my way through. The rear rack is really well designed too. I mean, you can get there great accessories, or you can kind of get your own. There's like a Yep window here for a child seat if you want. There's some threaded eyelets for mounting their bigger racks, the platforms. There's hangers for panniers. There's a loop here for like a bungee cord if you wanted to. I love that they also added bottle cage bosses right here under the down tube. It's not super accessible. Imagine reaching way down here to try to get at it. But at least they have them. It's a good option, and it's something a lot of companies skip, and I don't really understand why, because it'd be really easy to put a mini pump or maybe a folding lock. Maybe you didn't want to take your bag along that day, but you still want to have your little tool kit or something. It's great, and they've positioned it far enough out of the way that it's not going to collide with that fender. It's great. Coming back to other accessories and hardware choices, we've got the Wellgo platform pedals, aluminum alloy, Pro Reel crank arms, aluminum alloy guide, so that means there's a plate on both sides of the chain ring so that the chain's not going to bounce off very easily while you're riding. 12 magnet cadence sensor, so it's higher resolution. It starts and stops a little bit more quickly, and it's just a better ride feel all around. I love that they've got that slap guard on the right chainstay, so you're not going to nick up the paint, because it does look pretty nice. Their paint has really improved. I was noticing that the badge up here and the logo and stuff looks a little bit nicer. Just these incremental refinements year over year. They've still got this is like a derailleur guard. You can see it's actually been scraped up a little bit, and that might have happened in shipping. It might have happened if the bike tipped over or got kicked or something. So this is really good. It's going to protect that Shimano Acera derailleur. That's a good part. I think Shimano's like Tourney, Altus, Alivio, Acera, Dior. So Acera is like pretty high up on their spec. It's going to last a little bit longer between tune-ups, and again, it's just going to shift smoother and stuff. One of the really important things that they've stressed to me as we were looking at this, I noticed that there's like 11 to 34 tooth cogs in the rear. That's a really nice spread. A lot of the cheaper bikes I see have like 14 to 28. So 11, it's smaller, up to 34, it's bigger. So that's just a wider range of gears to pedal through. And that means you're going to climb more efficiently with this gear, or hit and maintain 20 miles per hour. That's the top assisted speed more easily. And you'll see how shiny it is. So this is a DNP freewheel. It's nickel plated, which is going to help it hold up a little bit better over time. It shifts really smoothly. As you're coasting along, you can hear it. It's a nice part. It's an upgraded part. A lot of times I'm seeing stuff that's kind of, you know, it's an afterthought. It's like a Tourney or something like that. It's okay, but this is important. This is the gears that you're actually pedaling with. So I care about that. And then I think we got a 46 tooth chainring up front. So, you know, you've got plenty of options as you're riding along. And look at these thicker spokes. These are 12 gauge. They're silver. They going to give you a little bit more strength if you've loaded up that rack. Maybe hold up a little bit better if you're going over a bunch of bumpy terrain in the long term. These are things that over time might start to loosen up, but one of the other areas that Rad Power Bikes has been stepping things up lately is they've got like partnerships with mobile bike repair, and they've even got some of their own solutions and stuff. It's pretty cool. They've got a comprehensive year-long warranty. They've got a big team that's manning the phones and stuff to give you some support. One thing I really did not want to forget to mention as we're exploring the bike is that they upgraded their little seat post clamp, and see how big it is? That means you're not going to hurt your fingers trying to open that up or tighten it. And that's important if you're like, maybe you're a fleet manager or something. Some companies will buy a bunch of electric bikes for their employees or for rentals or whatever, and you have to raise and lower that seat post height. So having a lever that's a little bit easier to work with is it's a small thing, but it's something I notice as I'm going through and looking at all the different parts. Okay, so there's the motor. This is a gearless direct drive hub motor. It's physically a little bit bigger than the motors that you'll see on like the Rad Rover, the Rad Mini. Those are geared. This one's gearless. So the difference is it's really smooth, really quiet, very durable. It weighs a little bit more, about 12 pounds, and it gives you regenerative braking. So that's kind of neat. You know, as you're going down a hill and maybe you're braking, you're physically pressing on those brake pads, but you're not wearing them down quite as quickly, and you're recuperating energy. I think it's like 250 watts, up to 250 watts. So that's cool. It puts a little bit of energy back in that battery pack. It's pretty nice, but there is some cogging resistance. Mike, can you come over here? And he's gonna tip the bike towards me on that kickstand. And I just wanna show you, you know, as I press it through like that, see how it's not spinning like perfectly efficiently. It slows down a little bit quicker. Thank you, Mike. It's not a ton, but it's one of the trade-offs. So I mentioned there's the pros, it's quiet, it's smooth, it's durable. The con is that if you're pedaling this thing unassisted, or you're trying to go super fast and you start to brake, I mean, you get the regenerative braking, but you also just get a little bit of drag, magnetic drag from that. So keep that in mind. Then the battery pack. I really like what they've done. I mentioned that this is cross-compatible with all of the other Rad Power bikes, so that's great if you get like a his and hers or a family fleet. A lot of fun. It's got lithium-ion cells inside. They're known for being lightweight, very durable, long-lasting. They're from Samsung, 18650, and these are 35E, so they're high energy density. This is a 48-volt, 14 amp hour battery pack, 672 watt hours. That's awesome. Other companies like Bosch has a battery pack that's called the Power Tube 500, the Power Pack 500. That's 500 watt hours. So 672 is significantly higher. That means you're gonna go a little bit further. Their charger is kind of basic in my mind. I've seen this charger from other companies. It's 1.1 pounds, a little bit cheaper to replace if you lose or break it. You know, just plugs into the battery pack. You can charge it on or off the bike. Puts out 2 amps, which is kind of average again. And I've asked these guys about it. And Mike, you were telling me the slower charge rate, it's a little bit easier on the cell chemistry. Is that right?
Yeah, so the slower you charge a pack, the longer the cycle life's going to be for most people. So yeah, we think that this is kind of the perfect blend between price, charging speed. So our customers have really found this to be kind of the sweet spot of being able to charge quickly enough, but also have a charge that's small enough to bring to work with them when they want to,
right.
or buy a second one to have around. Yeah,
that's a great point. And thank you for being honest. I mean, you know, you pay $1 million and you can get everything just perfect. And I see why you chose this, and that helps me to rationalize like, oh, okay, it's not just, you did think this through, you know?
Yeah, so it's an extremely reliable charger, right? We've hundreds of thousands of these out in the world now, plus the battery pack's very, very long range, so you just don't need to charge as often. And when you do charge, it's just nice to have something that's small, compact, and very trustworthy.
Cool. I'm also wondering, what are some tips on long-term battery care?
Yeah, so we always, we advise, always parking your bike indoors at night. Hopefully a dry environment. Absolutely riding in the rain's fine. Even a downpour's fine. But
good, we had some of that earlier, right?
Yeah, especially these bikes are tried and true. We built the business in Northern California, moved to Seattle. We've always been in rainy environments.
Yeah.
And so the Rad City's really been a progression over the last 12 years with our business, going from prototype and then all the refinements over the last few years to build a really smooth, really powerful, commuter electric bike that now is built for business as well. So the charging is along those same lines. Is like, taking care of your bike is all about keeping the battery topped off normally. If you leave on a vacation for a long time.
I've heard keep it at like 50% or something.
Yeah, you should always just keep a charge in there. You don't want to let it discharge all the way and let it sit for a long time. That's damaging to the cells. So it can create imbalance if an individual cell goes below the low voltage cutoff point.
Yeah.
Then maybe the battery won't charge again when you come back from your long vacation. So it's good to just kind of keep your battery maintained, charge it regularly, and just kind of general care of your bike is lubrication, maintenance, replace worn parts.
Yeah.
And we try to make that very easy by standardizing all of our components, our tires, our brake pads, our battery packs, our displays.
That's true. I've noticed that the cassette that we were talking about, that DMP freewheel, very nice. It's something that all of your bikes have this year for 2019.
Yeah, it's something we're really, really proud to be able to offer, and it's driven by our consumers, our customers, is that 11 low tooth and 34 high tooth. It's just fantastic for people that want that broad range without having to have a front derailleur. So
awesome. The other thing about this bike that I really like is just being able to, swap the batteries between them. And you've got, I don't know, I'm thinking about like the wiring and stuff, how it's internally routed, because it's not, we're looking at the step through here, but on the high step on a lot of the bikes, it's run through the frame. And I noticed that you've got these like threaded water resistant connectors on the more important parts and stuff. And being in Seattle, I'm just coming back to the rain and those types of things. I want to bash on the bike for a minute here. One thing that it doesn't do is hide the battery. Okay, like I like that you've got high capacity. I like that it's easy to remove. There's actually 3 bolts in here, so it's very sturdy, stays out of the way. The weight is low, relatively center across the frame, but it's not as hidden. And that's something I've seen some other e-bikes in recent years where it's much more hidden. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so our idea is that we love bicycles, right? So we love the bicycle aesthetic. So we like the blended approach of our custom battery pack with the semi-integrated down tube on all the bikes. So that it can blend in more naturally with all the bikes, rather than using the same sort of an integrated top tube, which sometimes will compromise the look of the bike being maybe a little bit more traditional. Yeah, you have a fatter down tube. This has always been our preference and our customers' preference, which is this idea that the battery is easy to remove. You have a bike that looks like a bike still, but is extremely powerful and fun to use. So.
And the cool thing is you can actually ride it. You can take the battery off and you can ride this around just like a regular bike. I would definitely recommend taking that battery off, and maybe the front wheel, which has quick release, if you want to reduce the weight of this. If you're putting it on like a car rack or something, it might be rear heavy, so be careful. But as a guy I'm not a super like strong guy. I'm always trying to like kind of ease my way and take my time with these e-bikes because they do tend to weigh more. These are 63 pounds roughly, the high step, and then 65 pounds for the step through, and that might be because of the frame reinforcement and stuff. They've really done a good job reducing frame flex, and I talk about it in a separate review. So I think that's pretty comprehensive. There's one other area that they improved, which is they've got these mounting points for the rear brake. Well, actually both, front and rear. Is it both? You got the conical washers? So apparently that makes it really easy to adjust so you don't get like the scraping sounds and stuff. And it's a little upgrade that I didn't really even know I didn't know to ask for, but they told me about it. And then that's the motor controller. So they separate it, which makes these batteries a little bit more affordable to replace. This is $550. If you want, you get one, you could put it in a pannier or a rear trunk bag or something. You could double your range for $550. And this battery it's not enormous, about 7.7 pounds. So it's also not the most heavy given its high capacity. I think that's about it. Did we miss anything, guys?
No, I think this bike really is about the experience because it's so buttery smooth and it really catches people off guard because it accelerates so smoothly, but it gets you up to speed so fast. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. And you have a lot of direct drive e-bikes are like that, so smooth, but then the 750 watt pairing is what really like drives home the beauty of a direct drive hub motor.
That's true. So it's 750 watts continuous on that hub motor, and part of what Mike's saying is like when you're accelerating with one of these, it sort of ramps up a little bit slower, a little bit smoother. He's using marketing words and stuff, but it's just not as like zippy feeling as a geared motor. But again, it's more durable and stuff. So coming back to pedal assist, I like that it's so responsive and that you've got twist throttle on demand. They've even got an on-off switch built into this, which is nice because sometimes you might be getting on the bike and you bump this. You don't want the bike to take off, so that's a great safety feature. I also really appreciate how easy it is to reach these buttons and stuff. The display is large, it's in the center, it's pretty well protected, like, if something fell on top of the bike. Not removable, but it is backlit, and they've got this little USB port down here. So this is USB type A, it's the big one, and it puts out an amp now instead of 500 milliamps. So that's going to charge your devices and work with more devices more consistently. So I really appreciate that. We already turned it on by holding mode. The different readouts here are 5 ticks for that battery infographic, 20% steps. It'd be nice if those were like 10% steps, or maybe even a percentage readout, but room for improvement. There's the odometer, and if I press mode, it switches to the trip distance. We've got speed in the middle, it's in miles per hour right now, but you can change that by holding up and down for settings menu. Pedal assist starts out in 1, but you can actually take it down to 0 if you want and pedal it just like a bike and use those lights that are built in. And then you can use the twist throttle. So the throttle overrides at full power at all times, and that's nice. Like maybe you're getting started, or you're zipping up a hill, or you're catching up to someone. It's nice to have that throttle. That does mean that this is a Class 2 electric bike, so it's not as permissible on like certain hiking trails or areas like that. Class 1 is like sort of the most universal pedal assist only. and then wattage readout. And this is cool if you're really gunning on the throttle, or maybe you're using that regenerative braking that we talked about. You can see how much energy comes back to you. So to get those lights turned on, we hold mode and up, and then there it is, the little light icon. Just take you around. This one actually has like a daylight sensor built in, so I guess it gets more bright depending on how dark it is outside. And that rear light that we already talked about. Another really cool feature for 2019 is there's a button on the bottom, and it does flashing mode. And I'm telling you, like, so few e-bikes even have lights that are integrated. More are getting it, but like none of them have blinking mode. So I was really excited when I saw that earlier. And I do want to compliment the saddle being pretty comfortable. Just back to the ergonomics and stuff, they sell a suspension seat post that can add even a little bit more comfort if you really want to. They've just got a ton of accessories. I think that's about it. We are going to walk the bikes out of the sculpture park now and maybe do a ride test. Okay guys, we're getting ready to do some city riding in Seattle. We got ourselves a hill right up there, and everyone's on a Rad City. Corey's over there on the step through. Lead on, buddy. It's pretty awesome. No one has to stand up. You don't have to hurt your knees. And you can see Mike's got his light on over there. And as soon as they break, you'll probably see Corey's light. Oh, there it is. Pretty awesome. It's a good environment for bikes with fenders. How you doing, Mike?
Good, all warmed up.
Warming up. We got the gloves. I gotta operate the camera with the bare hands, but it's going pretty well. I should mention these are non-locking ergonomic grips. They haven't been spinning on me, but sometimes if they get really hot or whatever, they can twist a little bit. That's another area you could consider upgrading. I really like the Ergon grips. They're quite good. I love that bell. Here we go. Pretty stable too. These are the 26 by 2.3 inch Kenda tires. I like that they've got the kind of the checkered pattern, so the tread isn't just completely slick. Check this out. Hey, it's the Space Needle. Sweet. I was trying to show it earlier. We were talking about the motor and I kind of skipped over it, but they've done a good job supporting the bigger motor. There's a little torque arm down there. See that little silver piece? And that helps to manage the added forces of the more powerful motor, and so that it doesn't come off. They've really built this frame, you know, it's definitely a purpose-built frame, and they've refined it over time. There's a little inset right here, so the battery's sunk into the frame just slightly. It kind of lowers it down, gives you enough room for maybe like a frame bag or to lift up from right here. Definitely on Mike's, you know, that's the 19-inch. It's a little bit more spacious up top, and you could add like some of the aftermarket like anywhere adapters from SKS, add another accessory onto your frame. Wow. Some really cool stuff in this city. So I think the Space Needle was put in during like the World Fair. And check this out, guys. Looks like some of the local businesses are using the Rad Cities for food delivery. With those big box bags, it'd be just a great option for that kind of thing. You know, companies trying to get around without paying for all the parking and stuff. I've seen this a lot in New York City, so it's cool to see it in Seattle too. I thought this was kind of neat. There's this piece of infrastructure right here that Seattle's done, and it's got like a little bike icon. Look at this. There we go. Nicely done. So you can put you can hold yourself stable and you can put your feet down. This is so cool. Seattle is just like a super cool city, and that's another example of the just some of the accessories. Those boxes would be perfect for food delivery. And like I was saying, I think a second ago we saw a bike go by and they were using it exactly for that. And that's just phenomenal. Well guys, I think that's about it. Had fun riding around the city. We ended up at this really beautiful building. Sounds like they have different exhibits all the time. Thank you so much for taking me around and for coming along, Corey, and showing off the step through. It's just awesome to see these bikes back to back. I'll have all the details, the measurements, the length, width, height, weight, Everything back at electricbikereview.com. Have fun out there, ride safe. Love you guys.